Welcome all of you to the call tonight. I'm going to talk about a number of different things, and I'll try and speed it up as fast as I can. But let me say this. I went a course and I spoke at the World Congress, Stem Cell Congress in Paris, and I was one of the keynote speakers that were there to do that. In the process, I got to meet with many different individuals, see work, get ideas and things that they were working on. Now, most of this was involved in things like creating blood out of stem cells, and one of the possibilities of it, which they say, no, it's not a possibility, it's a reality, it will happen, is a stem cell, a blood cell, is the same, whether it's in the body or not, as long as you can keep it alive. And they say now that stem cells have advanced so far and they can create them and they start duplicating, as they do, they can really alleviate the blood shortage in the world. And even the rare types of blood can be grown in enormous quantities. So that's a pretty major step. Not one necessarily for us, but you think blood donors are so difficult to get and a lot of blood is contaminated. Now you can have real blood, only it won't be uncontaminated and it'll be younger cells that are going through you if you're having an operation or something to that effect. Others were dealing in injecting stem cells into the retina of the eye and implanting them to where you could grow a new retina, and they can grow an entire new retina with it. They can grow a heart. They've taken hearts in their animal studies they've done. They've taken hearts that they grew in a petri dish and implanted them in the animal from where the stem cell came from, and they grew their heart. They removed the heart and put the new one in. It grew, and no immune rejection, nothing like that at all. So I can go on with so many things that are happening with it, but the important thing to understand is these people are in a very narrow field. They're intense in the research, and they don't have much lateral thinking. As a result, you can pick up a lot of information, and a little bit here and there is of value. But when I came back, I had learned enough, and I wanted to make a report. A lot of people have asked me, well, when are you going to report on the World Stem Cell Congress? And I haven't answered because I didn't want to answer up to now until I was ready, because I've been able to do the research that's necessary to make the conclusions and changes that are significant in this. Now, understand this from the beginning. We are a manufacturing company. We have the lowest cost of manufacturing because we have virtually no overhead. We don't have dividends to pay, shareholders, any of those types of costs that are there, and we have a $100 million plant. With that, we have the ability to take a given formulation and produce it for a much less cost than it would come out of any other plant, I believe, in the world. Now, with that, we could say, okay, we got great products, there's more profit, we can either lower the sales price or a number of things like this. And I think that's foolishness. The way you should think about this is that what's an acceptable price, and what does it take to get the results that you want with the ingredients that you're using? Now, because of a given powerful formulation, no one could begin to compete with it. No one would really be able to sell anything that like it or anywhere near it in ability, and that's why we've got this situation set up here with what we're doing. Now, I'm grateful that I feel blessed that I have the abilities and the knowledge and the desire to do these things. I'm here to work for you, and I'm here forevermore, however long that is going to be, but I'm going to try and make that a darn long time, I can tell you that. So we're all familiar to a certain degree from what we've done as we introduced the age pill from a year ago. And I picked it up on some skimpy science, but solid, very solid. Came out of Harvard Medical School, followed up by sources in other places around the world to validate and verify. And I could see the enormous power within it. So could other companies. In fact, there's one of the big soap giants, I guess soap, personal care product giants, one of the largest in the world, that's invested $250 million just to produce the ingredient that it can create in the cell itself. And basically, they're more concerned with stem cells than other cells, but it will do the both in either a replacement cell or a stem cell. But they have got it so that it's so expensive because they're trying to be so profitable with it that it looks like if they were really going to take it to a level of where you got maximum effect, it would cost, as they're saying, if it's a prescription drug, it would cost between, they don't know until they get the test done, but $1,000 to $2,000 a month. Gee, that's eliminated almost everybody, hasn't it, with it? So I looked at the science, and of course when you go into them, they had a price that was just staggering. But it was an ingredient called, it was a nicotinamide riboside, and it was an ingredient that is a precursor. In other words, it's the step before another step happens. And it was a precursor to NAD. And I won't go through the whole process of doing it. NAD is really the key, the most important part towards anti-aging, life extension, youth regeneration. Now, my vision and viewpoint over this past, I've been studying longevity and anti-aging for 30 years, but now over the past 2 years has changed quite a bit as what knew to be true has come to pass. And that is one size doesn't fit all. And NAD is the single most important highlight. Just like rubber is the most important part of a tire. But by the time you produce a tire, you've got many different types of ingredients in it and processes and everything. And rubber is the major component it's built around. But everything's done to make that perform better. Well, what we're looking at is stem cells. And this is where the breakthrough came from Dr. Sinclair at Harvard Medical School when he developed this compound. He takes it every day himself in the laboratory, says, and it costs him about $1,000 a month. That's in the lab with what they're doing. But what they did is they took, and I won't go through all of this, you've heard it, because I want to tell you the improvements. But they took old mice and young mice, and mice were getting close to dying in the older age. And on the young group, they didn't do anything. On the old group, they added this precursor into the food and into the water. And within just a matter of a few short months, 4 or 5 months, the old mice were indistinguishable from young mice in every way. And so you looked at them, the gray hair had gone to dark. Poor vision has gone to good vision. Poor hearing is good hearing. Brain shrinkage of 25% had been restored to a full 100%. Bone structures, muscle structures had all increased and strengthened to where there was no way to tell the difference between the young mouse and an old mouse. So, and then they lived much longer. In fact, as the young ones were all starting to die off, and the old ones were going on and on and on with this. So they took it to other animal stages, and because this is a mammalian, well, it's actually not even a mammalian process. NDA, which is a compound, it's NAD plus, and it has plus because it has a powerful electronic charge on it. That is really what creates the energy and many of the other activities in the cell that DNA can do. So with that, I decided I was going to see to make a product, but you've got to make one that's compatible. And one company started to sell some nothing in multi-level, but a little bit on the internet. Now I looked at the formulations, and if you looked at the studies, if you had 100 milligrams of it, yeah, you were on the chart, but it was a long ways to the top. It would take you well over 1,000, but they were using 100. One did 250, but it's still far down on the chart. But it's because of the high expense. Things are limited by factors like what their raw ingredients and other things are, and they have a model for determining the price. So if a product price, and let's say something like this is around $50 plus or minus, then if you have a product that is going to sell for that with this expensive molecule, it actually, you'll have to cut way, way back on it. You'll have to come down from 1,000 to 100 to 200, 250, perhaps at the best. Now, the thing about it is this is a precursor. But there are other precursors also for NAD, and the cell makes NAD on its own anyway, even without doing it. When you're young, you're producing enormous amounts of it, but as you get older, it starts to dissipate and fall off. And so when that happens, all kinds of things start to occur in a chain reaction that takes you down to an early agonizing death. Now, granted, we're living to be 80 years, but we're not really living much longer than our ancestors did. The only reason that our average lifespan has gotten so much older is the fact that we've got modern medicine that has done so many things for people that need surgeries and some medications for some things, heart and lungs, all of that. So those people that were, and 1 in 7 mothers used to die in childbirth at about 1900, and so that has dramatically changed the average length of our lifestyle. But if you're over 40, your lifespan has been decreasing. It's been decreasing because of the toxins, contaminations are breaking your body down, just like steel will rust until it collapses. That's happening to you. So now today, in the short time I have, I'm going to talk to you about some revolutionary discoveries. And here's the bottom line we're going to talk about to start with. Stem cell is the all-important one, but it's like a car, and you can put it on a road, and maybe the stem cell can go 100, or maybe it can go, from just a crawl. But let's say it could do 100 miles an hour down there. But if you have a road that's small and narrow, you're not going to be able to attain that type of speed. And the worse the road gets, the more it slows down until you get to bumpy dirt roads, and yet you can have that powerful motor in your car, and it just can't hardly go on. Well, it's the same thing with the stem cell too. But the road that it travels is the telomere road. And the telomere road is if you have enough telomeres out ahead of it, because they're intricately linked to stem cells. And what that means is they're the igniter. That literally the stem cell can be deteriorated and it can be restored to new. This is the theory, our hypothesis. Our product hasn't been tested to say that, but so we're all putting all this on a hypothesis of a conglomeration of ingredients and scientific studies that we reviewed and put together our form of the mulligan stew called the Age pill. But it has enormous power. We're seeing the results already. All of you out there are seeing them everywhere with what's happening with people. Because as you understood this, or as I understood that, telomeres have to be far enough ahead because they're the ones that, they're in stem cells, and they're on the tips of chromosomes. The regular replacement cells that are sent throughout the rest of your body to replace the ones wearing out don't have telomeres. So every time a new cell is created, it takes some of the telomeres away to string it out so it can weave its DNA in a duplicate cell. So telomeres go down 8 to 10% every 10 years, and the lower you go, the less cells that you're producing. The less cells that you're producing, you get to a point where your body is deteriorated to the point where literally a disease kicks in. It's the one that's going to kill you. It could be a stroke, a heart attack, cancer, any numbers of things like that. But we don't get those diseases when we're young because we're up at our more optimal level, aren't we? It's only rare someone would have anything like that happen. So if we have done all of that and then we get to be adult, bigger, stronger, all of that, then how come do we start deteriorating, going down? It's because the stem cells are getting exhausted and they're wearing out. And as they wear out, they start to deteriorate, and then they'll go into senescence, which is dormancy. That's a bad state to have in stem cells. The body has a mechanism where it tries to kill off those that aren't functioning anymore, just like T cells would fight a cancer cell. But the stem cells are no longer functional. They start emitting things that are called exosomes, but they're compounds that go out into the media, into the other cells that take it in, and it cross-contaminates all of our cells all around it from one to another as these harmful, dangerous ingredients emitted from senescent stem cells move throughout the area where the stem cells are contained. So that's, you see, this is now it's becoming much more complex than what it was by just taking a pill and growing younger, and old mice took it and became young. It's more complex than that, especially when humans have such a long lifespan, because dying at 80 is dying at middle age. We have the genetic potential to live to be 150, and we darn well should. And I think that's the things we can do. And I was just in Europe on a tour there, and I saw Aubrey de Grey, and you may not know who he is, but he was there at a hotel I was staying at, and he, world's famous anti-aging life extension person, the most, and perhaps one of the most knowledgeable. Then I watched some tapes on him and a few things, and I realized that Aubrey, while brilliant, is looking too narrowly, and he's missing some of the concepts of what has happened. He has the concepts of what's happened, but he hasn't found solutions to him, so he's projecting out that it's going to take a long time for this kind of thing to happen. Well, here we are at Sisel. We spin on a dime and spit out change, and that's what we're doing on this one. So, as he said, the limiting factor is lipofussion. Until we can conquer lipofussion, he says you're really not going to do a lot with cellular aging. Lipofussion is big cellular garbage that's within every cell. It takes in metabolic processes go place, and it takes place within the cell, and the waste is discarded, excreted from it. But over a period of time, damage within the system and the materials, which are fatty materials, start to bond together and glue up, and so pretty soon you start getting a sludgy situation within the cell. So now let's think about it. If we're going to take a look at increasing DNA, and the whole cytoplasm of the cell, which is like the white of an egg, is now so contaminated it's gone to dark brown, and it starts wrinkling up and caving in, and then the nucleus starts doing the same thing. What's happening in that stem cell? Its productivity goes down, and it goes down fast. When you're growing up to 20, you're accelerating and pretty well keeping with it, both in stem cell production and in telomere length. But then things slow down. You're grown, so they start falling off in both categories, telomeres or stem cells, about 8 to 10% every 10 years. And the further it goes down, the faster the aging comes up and all of the diseases. And you hit there somewhere, you get around your 70s, it's time to look at the most important thing in your life, maybe laying in some nursing home, having your diaper changed, and then there's a couple of times a week you get to go bat balloons between other people on wheelchairs. Well, I mean, it sounds funny, but it's really true, as you know. But so why do we have to do that? What is the difference between 20 and 70? It's nothing but decay and degeneration. That's what aging is. It's not a disease. FDA says it's not a disease. Thank goodness for that, because if it's a condition, condition can be treated. Just like, think of it in this term, like dry skin can be treated, can it? That's a simplistic way of doing it, but it's the same thing with aging. Why do we age? Decay, degeneration. Still, scientists are saying if you end the decay and you increase the regeneration, what's going to happen to you? In theory and in animal studies, you grow younger, bigger, stronger, healthier. Muscle mass starts coming back. Organ size and functionality and all of that increases. Memory, brain, all of those things that are wearing out, especially the brain, because you have a fourth of the oxygen you bring into your body goes to the brain, and it only weighs a little over 1% of your body weight, but so much activity is going on there, and that oxidation to create energy is what's happening, and it's oxidizing a fuel, glucose, a sugar, and with that, it explodes it just like gas does in your car, and in the cell, on the cellular level, and then it goes through the process, and it creates NAD, which leads to a couple of steps of where, I won't go into it in depth on this one because I've done before, but to where it goes to ATP, and then it changes, releases the positive charge, releases to hydrogen, and hydrogen then creates the electrical energy and homeostasis of the cell. Now, homeostasis, if you don't know what that is, that means the optimal working level of that cell. So, if you're going through all the sludge, the lipofussion, sure, you can't do anything, can't do good with it, but also that glucose that's being oxidized gets sticky because it's a sugar, and when you oxidize it, it starts to deteriorate, becomes sticky, and it coats all kinds of surfaces and proteins throughout the cell, and they can't duplicate and function the way they should. So now you've got those, and then they start to caramelize and harden. So now your biological organella that was within the cell is getting all plaqued up, just like your teeth get plaqued. It's the same process. Sugar in your mouth and bacteria oxidize it, and to get the energy out of it, and the result, you get plaque buildup in your teeth. Well, that's what's happening in your cells. And if you can imagine, if you're 20 or 30 years old, that's a lot of activity that's happened, and you start going down fast. So as I took a look at this, I decided we need to address all of these issues that we can as effectively as we can, and it's not going to be one ingredient does all. In fact, you can take different ingredients in different systems and putting them all together, and that's what I've done with the age pill. That's the reason they invited me to come and speak, because the work that I was doing, the things that I was professing, no one else was really doing. They're doing it bits and pieces here and there, but usually with other goals that are in mind. And here I am saying, okay, our body's full of stem cells. Why don't we do something about them? You know, instead of waiting until an organ goes bad and then try and inject it or grow an artificial one, how about if we can keep them, restore them, keep them young and operating? And that's the key with it. So let's flip back real quick to that stem cell going down that track and that road. And so if the road is broad and wide and the stem cell is roaring, it's at its optimal potential. Its homeostasis is at where you were when you were in your 20s. Your biological factors are operating that thing. You're going to start growing younger in time. And you know, it's just kind of like, if you remember that movie Raiders of the Lost Ark with Harrison Ford, and he stated in that the poor aging of his body, he says it's not the years, it's the mileage, and he's absolutely, well, pretty well correct. There's some things more than that, but that's the major thing. It's not the years, it's the mileage. So suddenly, what happens if your car motor starts breaking down? You start replacing it, you start repairing it, and then you get to the point you overhaul it, and you got a brand new motor in your car going again. Well, that's how we're addressing stem cells. So we come into with a multi-pronged attack, and the attack is we have ingredients that will do the unthinkable, I think, to Aubrey de Grey, and that is to remove lipofuscion or to support the body to do it. We can't say the products do it themselves because they're support ingredients, just like calcium builds strong bone, fish is brain food, you've heard of those types of things, and of course meat and proteins build muscle and all of that. So it's the same situation we're facing here, but it takes extremely powerful, highly concentrated, expensive ingredients to accomplish what we want. And our big goal is to get enough of them to the stem cells, and there's 220 different types of them throughout your body, and lots of them there that are spewing out cells like crazy and wearing out. So when you go from 20 to 30, by the time you're 30, you've lost 60% of your stem cell performance. And it keeps going down from there. And when you get 60, you're down to maybe 2 to 5%. That's it. And, of course, you can see why people are skin and bones and thin and all of that with that happening. So what we've done is we found the compounds that studies have shown could remove lipofuscion. We can't claim our product does it because it hasn't been tested. But I can tell you what, you can read the studies and we'll be publishing them, and then you make your own conclusion. A.G.E, Dr. Supplemental Health Educational Act, lets you do that. So we'll remove the lipofuscion. Then we can go after glycation. And that's what A.G.E stand for. Now, we have the age pill, but that's for regenerating cells and ending decay. A.G.E is really accumulated advanced glycation endo products or end products. In other words, your body breaks down, as it glycates, as it fills up with lipofussion, that's what A.G.E stands for with it. So our product is, don't confuse it with it, even though age is age. We don't have any dots in ours. But the difference is with it that we directly address the problems that are happening because of A.G.Es. So if we clean up the plaque, the glycation, the film that's within the cells, if we can support mobilization by the cell itself to break down and excrete the lipofussion that is built up, then we need to get to, then we can support through precursors, just like precursors always, support the body with the powerful ones to create more optimal levels of NAD, and we start to go younger. So in the brief time that I have left, I want to talk to you about some things that we're doing. I research constantly. I spend most of my day researching. I do enough in sales and marketing. But we have some new editions coming out. But here's one philosophy. I want to talk about telomeres first. First of all, if telomere length determines your lifespan, which it is, and you can have your telomeres, the units counted because they get depleted, and then they can literally be counted. You have 10,000 when you're 20, and when you die, you're down to about 5,000 left, or maybe 6,000 left. And so it doesn't take a lot to drop in that, but it regulates how often the cell divides. So if you have perfectly good stem cells, but they're not dividing very much because the telomere is short, you need to do something about telomeres. Well, there are ingredients that can actually increase telomere length and maintain in telomere length. And we have them. We have them in a formulation that we have. Now, what we do is in our TSX, and you have to be very careful because it depends on the ingredients that are there, and there's patents involved with some people who have powerful financial gain in this, so you have to do it rightly. So our TS6 is only one that does it. We'll talk about that for a second. It has two ingredients, cycloastragenol and strigoside 4, and they cost $84,000 a kilo and $46,000 a kilo. So it's really quite expensive. But it is like telomeres on steroids. It is just so powerful with that. So we have that product, and it's selling. A couple of others have got one that I know of, and they're 3 or 4 times as high as we are. But that's where our model comes in, and I'm looking to keep it as low as possible. But I know a lot of people, it might be priced out of the range where we have it. So we have some multiple discounts if you buy more than one to do it. But if telomeres is the process that we've got to rebuild, so it's got the road to run on, the stem cells, then we found in the process, just through recent science, because this is Nobel Prize winning technology in less than 5 years or so, and some of it's going to go on to create more Nobel Prizes. But with this, there are some other compounds that can lengthen telomeres. I can't say that with TSX because of patent rights and litigation potential. But we have some things that can actually lengthen telomeres. And in them, we put them into brain vitality. They're there right now. Now, they're not as expensive and they're not as highly effective as the others are in TSX, but they're quite effective. And we're using a couple of things to do that with. One of it is in a product called curcuminoids, and there's a number of varieties of things like this. You have to get right down to the type it is. It's like saying it's an apple. No, it's a Jonathan, it's a Macintosh, it's a Fuji apple, anything. But they're different. So if you get the right kind of curcuminoid, studies have shown that if it's fed to any type of model, including cells in petri dishes or animals or anything, they take that in and they start to increase telomere length. And when telomere length starts to increase, then stem cell application starts to also increase in duplication rate. So we thought for the people that cannot that TSX is too pricey for them, or they have to buy larger quantities. And even if you were, I'd be using both. But brain vitality is so important because 100% of the population will get, according to statistics, dementia, and over half will get Alzheimer's, and Alzheimer's starts chewing your brain up, and it starts really getting deformed and those types of things. And so the brain has the ability to fight those things, but it needs those super nutrients to do it with, and that's what we've got in brain vitality. So now by adding TSX in it too, because oxidation is one of the big things, and not adding TSX, by adding the curcuminoids to it, then we can have a powerful bang for your buck. Now you've got something that will support building telomeres faster than you're losing them, and now we just have to bring the stem cell up. Well, that's what we're after to do there, and so we have a complex formulation in the Age pill. And in that, we use a product called ALA, and that's alpha-lipoic acid. It's an extremely powerful compound. Now, we've just got those in now, but the thing about alpha-lipoic acid is it shows enormous potential for a number of things. One of them is it is a major factor, just like I talked about curcuminoids, in lengthening telomeres within the stem cell itself. So here, now we got a 1-2 shot. So we put alpha-lipoic acid in, and so now you have that in the Age pill, and you have the curcuminoids in brain vitality, and your telomeres will be supported to grow faster than they are dissipated to build replacement cells. So, in other words, you're going to rebuild it on faster. It's become bigger, longer, and making more replications and all of that if you're doing it right. So there's 3 different sources. Now, along in doing that, we found another one that was very good, and you'll see it out in the next version, too. These others are in the products right now, and the next version will have something called rosmarinic acid extracts, and they are very powerful also within the cell to support building NAD. And in the process of it, oddly enough, it has an ingredient in it that is primary, they think, to trigger fat burning and brown fat burning. And brown fat burns and create to burn white fat. So it's quite an amazing discovery there. So we've added that to it, and you'll be seeing it come shortly. Now, I don't want to go through too much more of this because of time, unfortunately, but let me tell you a couple of things that we're going to be doing. And one of them is we're going to be bringing out in the very future, I won't say the name of it because I don't want anyone knowing about it, but when cancer cells, or when a cell gets cancer, there's mechanisms within them that can, they're trying to shut down and kill it. Apoptosis is it's called. And if you can't kill it, then, and that's what chemo does. It kills cancer cells, but it kills all the good cells too, along the same. It's indiscriminate. And there are some things that are selective in that area. I'm not going to really discuss that with the potential of our products. You can look at Science to see. But our market is not to move into that area, but to move into growing younger, living longer, and living to a great length of life at a very young age. But if you remember right, when I talked to you earlier in this call about as the stem cells are duplicating so much, so rapidly, that they start dissipating down to where they become slower, and then they go senescent. And then they start secreting all of these compounds that makes other cells slow down and go senescent and does lots of biological harm. Well, there's a compound that I have found, and it's very safe. It actually came out of breast cancer research, treating terminal breast cancer and having an extremely high kill rate on it. I mean, like 80% or so, if I remember the numbers right. But out of that, and of course, you never know what state a woman's in. You know, when they're in terminal brain cancer, I mean, their last stage, or breast cancer, they're in the last stages. But this compound turns them off. and so that they die and doesn't do anything to healthy cells but turns off the cancer cells. Well, I'm not going to tell you what it is because I don't want to get my neck on the chopping block with the FDA or FTC. So, and we're not going to use it for that purpose, and we're not going to advertise it for that purpose. But the other thing that it showed was this ingredient would support the body to cause senescent cells to disappear. And when that happened, if you could increase the NAD in the cell, it is, in animal studies, they have been able to create lots of new stem cells where they were either died or they had become senescent with that. So we'll probably have a compound coming along that you might not take it for all your life, and you might too, but you take it for a while. I mean, maybe some years so you get all of that taken care of, but it's going to give you another big bonus because all of those senescent cells that are causing you to age faster, that are not producing new cells, which you desperately need, now we can get rid of, and the body has the ability to replace those with new stem cells. And so that's a remarkable discovery, and that's going to be out very shortly. Now, the only other couple of points I have is and this is what's going to be happening quickly. We're going to bring out the hydrogen powder stick. We think it's called Supra H2 and then stick in capitals, S-T-I-K. And it's a stick that you can put in a bottle of water or a glass of water. If you had a glass of water, that's about half of what a bottle of water is you buy at the store. So you can tear it. It's in a stick sachet and small enough to fit in, so you can cut the end off and pour half of it in and then just fold it over just like you would with if you had a piece of gum with the aluminum foil, and it'll hold. You can do it in a glass of water, or you can dump the whole thing in a bottle of water, and then you wait for 10 or 15 minutes, stir it and mix it a little bit, not too much, but enough to keep it in solution, and you'll have huge amounts of hydrogen being produced, and you drink it, it goes right through, it goes through everything. Nothing can stop it, and it's one of the very most powerful antioxidants, maybe the most powerful antioxidant that exists that I know of. And with that, it can go through the cells, neutralize all of the toxins and free radicals, and not all of them, but I mean great numbers of them. With it, it has that potential. So that's going to be out, and for energy, and you'll be seeing some studies, because you can look at the studies, and the studies are going to show you what it does for biological support. It's just enormous. So those are the things that I wanted to talk to you today about, with one last thing, and that is your skin. Your skin takes the worst beating of anything, because not only do it duplicates the fastest rate. You grow, when you're in your 20s, you grow a cell, and 20 to 28 days later, it's discarded and gone. So stem cell activity is huge. And, of course, it's your largest organ in your body, and it's your protective organ, too. And so you get a lot of senescent cells that start building up in face, hands, throat, areas like that, well, throughout all your skin, but especially in those areas, because they're bombarded by ultraviolet wavelengths and infrared wavelengths that actually damage stem cells badly, and take ones that are even deteriorating and cause them to become senescent. That's why it's so hard to resurrect the skin with products and things like that. Now, we've done a great job with transfusium, but we have found things that we can do from the age pill and from some other things now to go into it, to where if ever there was a chance to have young skin, and I think it's there now for us, but it's so badly damaged in those areas, it's literally, unless you do something to supplement and support it so its mechanisms can work, it's not going to get better. But things can be done. I won't explain them because of time, but trust me, I know what I'm doing with this kind of thing. So we're going to have a super strength transfusium. Maybe we'll call it megafusium or something else like that. But it will be enormously powerful with it. We're going to add the components in from the age pill, especially all of them that train everything like glycation and senescence, because that's bad, and also the lipofusion is to remove them. And you're going to see as you're taking this, we may even have some special treatments you can put over it. Now, nobody's even considering this, and here we're going to do it because the science is there, but because we manufacture, we can get those ingredients and make that kind of thing happen. So you're going to see tremendous changes coming after the first of the year with the skincare line. They'll really impress you. And then we will have 10X, and that will be out after the first of the year or towards the end of this year. 10X, I'm not even going to go into it for tonight's call. You can learn about it as we go along. I've talked about some. It is like if you take Sisel Rip is like a very fast bicycle, and this is like a Ferrari in comparison to it. It has so much more power than just supporting muscle building. It has all kinds of things that are really critical to a lot of functions, to great health and energy and all of those in it. And I'm not talking about a caffeine buzz. I'm talking about the real energy that lasts and lasts. So that's coming out. Now, I saw one thing, and I've talked to a couple of people about it fairly recently. When you're taking, and this is going to be my final statement, there's biological signs of aging, and there's biological signs of the age pill working. And so all of us that take it, at least most of us, get a flush. And what that flush is, and some people, it's not good, it's reacting with you. No, it is reacting with you in a positive way. What's happening is that flush is going through the capillaries and expanding them. They start collapsing in and becoming hard and brittle and inflexible. It carries less nutrients and oxygen and less toxins and waste away. So that as that starts constricting and breaking down and shrinking, the compounds that are in this causes them to dilate. And they'll dilate. This is our theory now. I can't say absolutely, but I'll tell you the theory of what we've seen and what we're attempting to do. You judge for yourself. But anyway, with that, we're supporting that so capillaries can expand and become like they were when you're younger, with more flexible linings and all those types of nutrients we're trying to put there because it has the ability to do it. So after a while, you don't feel the flush anymore. So what's happened? Well, actually your capillaries are all dilated and really going. But now something comes along with some people. I had it myself, and that was itching on the skin, especially in my scalp. And I didn't know what it was, and it's easy to make a mistaken conclusion that, something's wrong. I can't handle this or do that. And I was sure it had to do with the age pill. So after not too long of a period of time, it took me a few months, and I had very large pieces of skin coming off in my scalp and my hair. And what is happening here? But as I felt it, it was becoming more flexible, and this was just old. Skin gets very tight on the head, and so this just expanding out, building out, sloughing off the old skin. Now that's all gone, and I feel great, and I don't have the itchiness anymore. But it's not just the itchiness is another thing too. And if you've ever been cut, and if you get a serious cut or serious injury, as it starts to heal, you'll notice it will itch and you will scratch it. And a doctor will tell you, it's good to massage that. Don't break it open, but go ahead and scratch it. And it's because blood vessels and capillaries and everything are really growing out into that damaged area. Well, I believe, and this is my personal opinion, from what I see, what I think, that what happens as you feel that itching in your skin is you could be growing all new kinds of capillaries and everything else, increasing biological activity, expanding the matrix of the skin, putting a little bit more pressure on nerves. Blood flow is increasing, which causes you a little bit. And you know what you're doing? Those are called growing pains. And so you can be restoring yourself to tremendous health. And if you look at those things and somebody says, I'm tired, that's the last one I want to tell you. If you're tired, what happens is it means a couple of things, and it can happen. Part of the process in the stem cells is creating energy, and when you greatly increase the amount of NAD, it has to be converted to another compound called ATP. and that requires a methyl donor, and it's a compound. You can find it in dark green vegetables, broccoli, spinach, avocados, things like that. And if you don't have enough in your system, all of that NAD will exhaust it, and then doesn't have enough to be converted on down the cycle into ATP. So if you are having any of that tiredness or fatigue, do one of two things. Start liking spinach and broccoli and eating it more, or avocados, and getting it up within your system. It's not tough to do to get it up, or you can go to the store and you can buy something that's got a methyl donor in it. There's methylfolate's one. It's inexpensive, and it can work for you and do a good job. Now, that's not folic acid. It's methylfolate, so make sure that you get it right. Well, you can see how fast I talked. I promised I wouldn't go this long, and I've gone this long. But these are all new things in what you're talking about, and there's a lot more. I haven't covered the fact that I found a couple of forms and reactions. And none of you probably knew this, but there are 8 different types of vitamin E's, and a couple of those types, in conjunction with some compounds that can be formed with vitamin C, can have incredible support for telomere length increases too. So we're not done with this baby. We're working on these things right now, and every product we get, I can promise you, it's going to get improved. Every time we find it, we can prove it, and it's beneficial. We're going to do it. Now, our age pill has changed I think it's the 5th time it's changed, and we've not charged you a penny more. It's a tremendous buy. The other thing about it, it's so powerful now with all the things we're doing. If you used, if you took, I take, 3 and 3, and sometimes I take more. But if the person is 150 pounds and under and they're taking 2 twice a day, that would give them about everything they needed and keep it in order. Then they need to do some things like take some brain vitality or some TSX or a few of those types of things to make it work, and they're gonna have a body and health potential that will be incredible, and they can start living longer and growing younger and feeling that way and not losing the mental faculties, but actually improving upon them. That's what we have to offer. And tell me this, in my final conclusion, tell me another company on earth that is doing this. Tell me one that could do this. I don't think any of these dietary supplements could. They wouldn't. Because it's so limited on price. But I'm in this thing. I've built this company. I've made my fortune. That's why we're paying higher commissions. And because we can manufacture for the lowest price and we have more profit, we're building the products to the max, not to the minimum, so that you can have the incredible power that no other company on earth will ever be in position to do. And right now in MLM, there is no one but you when it comes to the age pill. And then you look at throwing brain vitality with the telomere lengthening support now that's in it with that, and now with ALA in the age pill doing it, you're in great shape to do a lot of things with your life to make yourself incredibly healthy and much happier and wealthier if you will get your rear and gear and work, because who wouldn't want this kind of stuff? So that's my message for tonight. I really went on, but by being so broad, I'm not able to cover so many things in such detail, but I've done the best that I can do. So I did talk fast, and you might just want to listen to this 2 or 3 times and take some notes and shut it off and write them down if you want to know that kind of information. But for me, it's fascinating because this is real science. This isn't hocus-pocus stuff. This isn't a secret potion or formula or ingredient nobody knew about from the jungles of someplace on Earth. This is real solid science with variations and highly concentrated extracts that are explicitly designed to support as precursors to biological activity within your body, to grow you younger, to give you more energy, to restore, support your body to restore that which is lost and been deteriorating back closer to where you were. What's your potential? I don't know. People are saying, Aubrey Gray says, well, the way we are right now, we'll probably get, somebody might get another 10 or 20 years. That's hogwash. And of course, it means the age. If you're over 50, even some experts are saying right now, you should live to be 150 to 200. Or if you're under 50, live to be 150 to 200 years old. I agree with that. I think we can do that. And by the time we're down the road further, we think people being born today, myself and some other scientists I'm associated with, being born today will probably be living 300 or 400 years. So wherever you're at right now, just take your lifespan, and how would you like to double it or triple it? That potential is there for you if you're not too old. If you're too far gone, it's hard to bring you back. But if you're 50, maybe 60, you got a big chance of close to, and I can't say this because it's just my feeling, but of maybe increasing your age by 50% or more. That wouldn't be bad. And wouldn't it be great not to spend it in a nursing home wishing you were dead, because of that miserable lifestyle, but you can't do anything for it for about 10 years because it's out of your control, because your body's out of control. But now you can take your body in control, and you can do the things. If you believe and you understand, and then you take it to other people, if you're going to live an extra 100 years, you better make a lot more money. So start taking it out to all the other people that want it. Make that money, build that fortune, build that empire, and we'll do lots of things. And this is so new. The science is so great. The things that I'm doing, the discoveries are made, but no applications. And some of this is really happening, but we are with us. And so you'll be seeing things even more specific. Now we have the most powerful formulation of our brain. Pretty soon, I'm going to have something very specific for skin, and pretty soon I'll have something very specific for hair, and who knows what else. And I could talk to you about some other ingredients that would absolutely shock you in what they can do, but it's just going to take a lot more time to do it. So I can get going. I go on and on. Sorry about that. But thank you for being on the call tonight. I hope this wasn't overkill. It's everything I had down, and I did as fast as I could. So take this and run with it. This is your big opportunity of your lifetime. And if you don't do it, guess what? Millions of other people will. And you'll wish, I was there. I wish I'd taken advantage of it then. Then is now. This is your moment in time. Thanks for being on the call, and I'll turn it back over.